Just starting out with some recent weather phenomenon here. Everyone's seen these huge anvil clouds building up, but this one in particular did something pretty strange, and I think I did a little highlight of this section coming up. There were these plasma discharges, but they're sideways. See right there. And it's not just one at the base, but there's several all the way up top. Almost looks like bullets shooting by, but they're a type of plasma discharge, maybe. Freaking meteors shooting through the atmosphere. I have no idea, but they happen in that brief little moment to this build-up. Let's see, I replay again. I mean, it looks like something shooting by, like a plasma weapon, but God only knows. A lot of people have been capturing that vertical columns instead of lightning. Looks like plasma discharges. People are catching like square grid plasma discharges. There's definitely some funkiness going on in the atmosphere right now. A lot of things moving around up there. As you can see, this was clearly something that did a brush by the atmosphere. This is its wake washout. It kind of just swirls, just like if you took a golf ball and you threw it into a tub of soapy water. You're going to get, this kind of turbulence as it follows the ball or tries catching up to the ball, and then, everything collapses back. You get all the little offshoot wakes like these. You see that nice little trail that shoots down in that little crevice. This is how today started. What got me off my ass, turned my camera back on. It's been pretty hot, miserable lately. I'm not complaining though, because from what I see on TV, the rest of the world is pretty much on fire. So I'm praying for everyone. Stay safe out there. And just remember, things are changing. You need to prepare. Shelves are going empty. They're starting to replace, entire aisles with vinyl sheeting that makes it look like the shelves are full. They're trying not to let us know that the food shortage is here until it's really upon us. So don't wait until it is truly upon you and there's nothing but vinyl sheets covering all the friggin' aisles. Get your essentials now, buy bulk. Buy it now. Buy it now. Buy it now. Or regret it. Can't even emphasize. I've been freeze drying meat nonstop since I bought that thing. And when I'm not freeze drying something, I feel like I'm wasting valuable time and energy by not freeze drying. Even stuff that's just in my freezer. Power goes out. You're either going to eat it all or it's going to spoil. But if it's freeze dried, cool dark place, and it'll last for years and years. So, but not everybody can afford a several $1,000 food freeze drying machine. But canned food, or you can still buy freeze dried food online. Even Walmarts are selling it. It's not going to be the best, most delicious food, but it'll get you through. And instead of throwing away all your milk cartons and sweet tea jugs, 2-liter soda bottles, wash them out, fill them up with filtered water, sit them in a room. I mean, you can't go wrong with the whole room full of that crap. All right, now this is something that didn't come from me. It got passed along to me, and for some reason it resonated and made a lot of sense, so I figured I'd make a little drawing and put it up there. Talks about how, we have these two kind of cyclical events that kind of correlate around the middle of the year, which is pretty much what we're in right now, which is the most intense. And then there's one towards the end of the year, which is a little less intense. But basically, as you can see in the depictions, you've got the front side alignment where Earth is on the far side of the sun and the brown dwarf, or whatever you want to believe is out there, the binary. And then the other one is basically halfway through the year, we kind of orbit in between the two, and then are basically in between two of them. So we're getting, It's more intense apparently when they're both lined up and you have that magnification of heat. I would have thought it might have been a little bit worse if us in the middle, but I guess not. But here, if you look at the top right, you look at the sun. This is just one of my normal security cameras pointed up. The sun's going to do something pretty funny here in a minute. It usually doesn't do until it is about to be completely out of frame. You know, a lot of times you'll see the FAA cameras when the sun's about to go completely out of frame. You get that green beam that basically shoots horizontal, or you get a red beam color that shoots out for the side. That usually only happens when they're going completely out of frame on your camera. You know, which is the way the light's going to come in and focal into your lens. But for some reason, it changes well before it even gets anywhere near the edge, which tells me that something passes in front of the sun. And basically, in this particular instance, you get these red kind of beams that shoot out of the top and the bottom. And then right when that happens, that's when these huge clouds build up, and then, you know, you'll watch the rest of the video and find that out. But usually when you see, or at least when I see these huge clouds starting to build up, you can look well up in the sky and you'll see those kind of, you know, streak clouds, you know, look like something's pushing through way up there. There it is. There's the double red beams happens. Sun's nowhere near the edge. This is I've never seen it happen like this. You see it flaring, it's getting super bright, and then everything just fills in really quick, and then you got, you know, this crap. So that tells me that something external up there either passed in between us and the sun, or, you know, encroached in the sun, cut it off, causing the flaring. Either way, you can see the result. Something definitely did happen. It's more of the wake washout, as I like to call them. And then you got the kind of lower level offshoot wakes that are the darker color, and they kind of just randomly spawn and form, and you'll see all sorts of weird, you know, vortex motion in those. It's basically everything in the lower atmosphere kind of, you know, getting whipped around as the upper atmosphere, you know, gets tugged along, and you got all these offshoot wakes that kind of trickle down to our level. They don't last very long. But then towards lower in the horizon, you'll see everything's kind of moving towards the illumination above it. You always want to look for those illuminations. This, towards the right, is facing opposite of sunset. So there should not be any super bright illuminations over there at this particular time, yet, you know, there's about to be a glowing kind of orange, and you can kind of see the reddish. It looks like there's something up there that's got color. It's kind of pushing through. You know, if you dim your cameras just enough, you can see all that subtle coloration. You can start to see, looks like something's pushing in there. It's leaving the wakes. You know, it's got an illumination to it. You know, and they're moving this way and that. It's objects caught in the wake of whatever just passed by, and they're just kind of getting tossed and tumbled back and forth as they, you know, slowly move away and out of sight. But when they get close to the horizon like this, they usually glow orange, yellow, usually an orangish yellow, just like you see right as they're getting close to the horizon from your perspective, about to basically go out of view. They'll illuminate. It's not going to be like that for somebody who's directly under it. That's just a perspective thing. That tells me that the objects are getting close, you know, to moving completely out of sight from my perspective. You know, and you can see you got the turbulence kind of going up at the right angle, and then it looks like right there where I'm pointing, there's something kind of pushing up that little bow wake, and you're going to see a little cloud kind of form, and there's going to be a little spherical impression right at the nose. That's basically those objects. They come close to kind of breaking through, you know, the bottom, but they basically just move back in. I mean, I can see so much crap in the tops of those. When you see this stretching out like that from the horizon, that's a trail. That's a pathway of a group of asteroids or a group of objects, whatever you want to call them. And when you get to a certain part of the sunset event, they become illuminated, and you can even see the different colors of the different objects. And then shortly after the sun's light, you know, moves farther and farther away, it just dissipates from your sight, basically. Because unless it's illuminated by the sun, you cannot see space objects. Period. And it's even stranger than that, I'm sure. I mean, you got the ones low level pushing forward, looking like freaking. I mean, even the blue sky right there, it's almost like a black blue, like a deep navy blue. You got the plane shooting over that freaking blue spot or black spot, trying to cover it up and hide it, as they always do. Whenever there's a gap forming, hiding what's passing, there's going to be a chem plane that's going to shortly, shoot by, drop a trail, whether it covers it up or, there's another one just like that. I mean, thousands and thousands of these videos, and you can even see that spherical impression, all the chemtrail line right towards its base. I mean, they know these things, follow them. They got equipment that tracks them. Even though they don't tell meteorologists what's going on, meteorologists are only looking, at the lower levels of the atmosphere. They're not looking. They don't have space weather equipment set up to see what's going on above it. So their perspective of what's causing the weather is limited to what they get from, radar and, and other ground-based equipment that they use to monitor such things. They definitely don't have all the tools that NASA or the Black Space Projects do. It's all about your perspective, the way you're looking at this stuff. If you have all the background on what's going on in space with the binary, then you can pretty much formulate a pretty clear image of what is happening to the world right now. But if you're focused on, the Earth and, some Earth cycle that doesn't involve the rest of the solar system, you're going to be missing a huge aspect of what's going on. As well as, if you think that the Earth creates its own weather, its own temperature, and the sun is not the, ruler of all, then you're also going to have a limited perspective of what's going on in the world. Because our weather, the temperature, the climate, everything is tied into the sun. We are just a light bulb plugged into the sun, or a device plugged into the sun, a dynamo, basically. Without the sun's energy transferring to it, it can't turn, it can't function. It needs the linkage between the sun to create its magnetosphere. And it also helps when the sun's, active and shooting off a lot of solar wind towards us for our bubble to build. Right now our bubble is waning. And I guess we have a lot of possible meteors that are going to be coming with this meteor shower that they, I guess, are doing all these, tests to the emergency broadcast system, and they're talking about this and that. And while I'm here, there's another example of one of these passings of an object giving off the ionized red trail, top left, and then here recently, 2021, almost a year and a month later, same exact thing, same exact spot. Cyclical. These are objects doing orbital passes, and you can track them just like I have. I'm no expert. I'm Riri in his room with a couple cameras and basically studying it until I figured it out. Or at least figured out what's happening above me. I mean, this right here basically shows what the red ones were. Just without it being illuminated by the sun, you're not going to see an illuminated crescent or an actual physical object, because they are invisible until they become illuminated by the sun. But now we're on to the second part of the video, which is some older videos that I wanted to retouch on now that I guess I'm talking, so I can explain them a little bit better. even though I can't really explain what the hell is going on here. All I do know is that the Nipissity was in close proximity during this time. This was a repeat of something that happened the year before, where these standing cloud wakes basically just stayed in the same spot, almost looking like they were coming from something way off in the distance, and just, this is just one wake and a giant wake from something larger above. Is basically how it appears to me. And that, could be an object passing over right there where that stuff got concentrated. Yeah, there's that same thing again. So imagine that little illuminated crescent at the base of that. There's another example of repeating incident, stretching out like a penis cloud, I guess how you could call it. Objects moving inside of that ion bleed off. You can clearly see it right there. Matches somebody else's photo that they caught of one cloaked in the clouds or hidden in the clouds, not illuminated. Another passing object a year apart, almost the same thing. I think this is just showing what ion bleed off looks like compared to regular clouds. If you've been watching my channel, you've pretty much figured that out. It's like a bleed off, a waterfall of cloud that just comes from certain areas at the front. It's like a river. Regular clouds don't do that. It's pretty obvious that there's a cluster of objects at the front of that's just interacting with the atmosphere, continually bleeding off, layer after layer. It's like a giant chunk of dry ice floating through the atmosphere. You're going to get a nice little, silky trail like that. They come from little nodes, little clusters at the front. Just huge amounts of ion bleed off coming off of that cluster right there. You can see the cluster's illuminated. It's got the wakes, and then it's got the huge, ion bleed off trails. It's shooting off all the little individual ones. You can even watch as they pass. They almost look like they're turning to stay, so they can stay looking at you. That's an effect that happens when a high altitude object, something like close to space, floats by. Just because we're stuck here on the ground, it's going to look like they're turning and staying focused on you as they pass. But that's really just your fixed perspective, to passing space objects that have rainbow refractions in them, just like that. It's just like little clusters of transparent, visible objects. That's a pretty good example right there. Nodes is bleeding off. I got plenty of photos that actually show them too. They just kind of go up almost like a nerve ending, it just stretches up. You just gotta imagine that illuminated crescent at the nose of all those things. That was an extremely lucky catch as I was snapping away at the sky that day. I leave little waves, I'm gonna be a rocket scientist to figure out that's not a normal cloud. I can even see something in the center of it. It looks like a dark mass, but I've been looking at this crap way too long. That's one of Ahtu's moons, the OCGs that orbit under it, that I've caught 3 different times, almost a year apart each one. About 7 months, I think, for that one. Different times of the year, same exact direction, same exact layout. They all form like a line, and they just pass just like that. Caught them in the rain, in the mornings, in the evenings, but pretty close to about 6-7 months apart. This little trail of objects, always going off to the distance to some weird shape off in the distance as they push into our lower atmosphere. And I'm pretty sure now that it's not just a camera anomaly. When you see all those speckle spots everywhere on the camera, it looks like it's, a crappy camera shot. That's not the case. These are pretty decent, high resolution security cameras. And they only do that when these objects are passing. When the sun's blaring, all those little grains is like dust clouds. All those little grains will carry a static charge. They're up there bouncing around, hitting each other, creating static electricity, which binds them together in little clusters. Given enough time, enough collisions, you got bigger clusters of objects passing by. I guess we're probably going to start seeing the bigger objects break the atmosphere pretty soon. So far they've been kind of ricocheting off the magnetosphere, getting repelled. That's why they always kind of come in at a swooping arc like that from under the sun, off one of the other directions, and then just kind of moves off along. That's the green asteroid, which I have so many examples of its multi-trail, bleed-off trail. I tracked it on a Bloom Sky one day across several different countries. This is a recent one that I found. You can see the obvious green asteroid right there that I got pointed out. It's a multi-trail coming in the same direction it usually does. The lead coming in, sometimes it actually looks like that trifold. It's like a cloud cocoon that kind of forms around it as it pushes into the lower atmosphere. That's something that the lead object does from time to time. You can top left. That was actually a photo from 2019. Hungary in a live webcam. Matches several of my own captures. You'll see them a lot with the cubes, long box cubes. They're always up there too. This stuff's not designed for us simple humans to see, so you gotta look. If you want to see this kind of shit, you gotta look. You gotta want to look. You gotta have a curiosity like a kitten. You just have to know. Otherwise, you'll stay asleep and you'll end up a statistic. But I'll be damned if I'm going to be somebody's statistic. So many repeated passings of the same damn objects. Swooping into the bottom. This happens pretty quick. But you see time and time again, whether they're illuminated that day on a sunset, or it's illuminated at a sunrise, or it's straight up at nighttime. It's the same damn thing. You get the wakes, ripples, the illumination at the nose. Like here, you can see the same object kind of creates the same kind of wrinkled face as it pushes in. Transparent, very hard to see, but yet, captured enough times to show that it exists. A bigger one swooping in for a close pass. I can go on and on. I think I do go on and on in this video, actually, because it looks like I got a long way to go. So I might just shut up here in a little bit and let you just absorb it. Just look at the little objects breaking the wakes. I just picture that being upside down and, being like water and a bunch of little baby ducks, swimming on the top or something like that. I think I get into some more wake videos here, which are some of my favorite. And just how these objects passing through the atmosphere create these rolling wakes. You can tell that there's something passing right there, that kind of distorted turbulence, and that's just not a normal. Leaving those wakes, you got the freaking trails going to them, the illuminations at the base. Everything just kind of gets tumbled. It's like something large is passing by and everything's kind of, rolling with it. Big, huge sphere bulges, they just kind of appear and then fade into the darkness. do this pretty much just to help everyone else, because it is so beyond obvious to me that I don't need any more convincing. It'd be nice if some people in my life would actually look at some of these videos that I made, so they could, stop being so ignorant and judgmental. It's not like I haven't shown enough evidence. It's just people can't suck up their egos long enough to look at it with an open mind, realize how wrong they were, and get tired of, saying I told you so. I really do. Even though I may enjoy it when I say it, I get tired of saying it. I think this was another Nipicity close pass. These are all the OCGs that orbit kind of under Nipicity. This was one of its close passes. So these are the OCGs under Nipicity doing a extreme close pass. They usually will give off this orangish, bluish cloud illumination like you see here. That's a pretty good indicator that it's a Nipicity OCG group. I mean, you can even see the illuminated kind of cocoons of these things as they pass. That was a little black zipper shooting by. But as they pass, they'll even stay focused on you, like I was saying earlier, like they're looking at you as they're passing, but it's really just a high altitude object, passing over you, and your perspective of it is changing, as it goes from far away to above you and then moves, out of sight. And then another reason that you can tell that these are actual objects, asteroids, whatever you want to call them, is the distortion. I mean, you can see the fuzzy distortion that always seems to show up, when I'm trying to put there's a good one right there, how it seems like it's looking at me as it passes by. But that kind of fuzzy distortion, electrical distortion, whatever you want to call it, is a trademark of these electrical asteroids, electrical objects, other dimensional objects, whatever you're comfortable with, I'm comfortable with, because all I know is they're up there. What they are, I really don't know. But I think I've proved pretty good that there's definitely things up there. It's not just clouds and bugs. Sorry, no bugs. No bugs today. I fumigated. I used to even douse my cameras in freaking bug off, citronelle, peppermint, anything to deter any kind of flying insects from getting anywhere near my cameras, because I got tired of hearing people say that those little, black objects zipping around are bugs. So I did everything I could to eliminate that, including putting high velocity fans behind them, so there couldn't be any insects landing on the lens or floating around. And yet they were still there, so it's definitely not insects. Seen a lot of other people capture good photos of them recently. Those little black craft, shadow craft, whatever you want to call them. I don't think there are secret tech. I don't think there are craft. I think they are either maybe inner Earth tech or ET tech. But it's way more advanced than I think even we have right now. Like thousands of years ahead in our secret government, maybe 300 years ahead of civilian, or at least of what they tell us. So, another 700 years is a good bit on top of that. The way they can morph, change their shape, and go from like a plasma orb into a physical structure. They can just separate into two, blink in and out of our reality. There's no doubt we have stuff that can do that, but not as sexy as they do it. That's for damn sure. some of my favorite videos right here. Yeah, this camera, by the way, I hate to say, finally died. My $400 security camera, which recorded these wonderfully high resolution images, just died one day. I don't know if it was a lightning strike or what, but I have not been able to figure it out. It's been a trooper, but I'm down to one camera that I can log into and actually pan around with, which is kind of sad. Actually, it's really sad. I just can't justify spending any more money on a camera, because if people haven't gotten it just by now, then another year's video is not going to do it. I'd rather put that money into food, medicine, ammo, dog food, so I can feed my dogs. Because you're going to need some dogs to protect your supplies from any unprepared roving packs of wild humans. Especially when the, I hate to say it, but when the desperation and cannibalizing starts. It's already happening, but hopefully that'll stay away from the modern countries for a little while at least. But we got a good decade of crop losses to deal with. So if you want to eat something in particular, it's time to learn how to grow it yourself, or buy it now and freeze dry it for later. Any kind of long-term antibiotic supplements, anything like that. You can fight off infections, toothaches, not just toilet paper, toothpaste. I like the activated charcoal toothpaste chewables. They're basically like little tablets. I can't remember who makes them, but those things it's no fluoride, just activated charcoal and coconut and like peppermint, and my mouth feels way more fresh and clean after I brush my teeth with one of those than it ever has with fluoride toothpaste. And there's no mess, of gooping out. It's just little tablets. Put a little water in your toothbrush, chew it up, brush your teeth, good to go. Long-term storage, perfect for the emergencies. Things like that is what we got to think about now. Things you can't live without. Rechargeable batteries, maybe even a little portable solar charger. Charge up your radio, your ham radio, so you can hear what's going on in the world. Because you definitely don't want to be cut off from everybody and just start, wandering around out there when all the roads are, to shit, and you may get stranded away from your loved ones trying to get your favorite flavor of ice cream. Alright, last little stretch of the video. I'll leave you to it. Enjoy. I always like the wakes. They're mesmerizing. But just remember, time is short. Prepare now. Stockpile up on essentials, medicines, not just for a month or two, but at least a year. I mean, that is bare minimum, because we're going to be going into this year after year for the next probably decade, and it's just going to get worse each year. So get it all while you can. When you can, still find it in the store. Stay safe.